Hello everyone, it's Matt Paul here, and in this video I'd like to present to you Arturia's universal lightweight music making controller, KeyLab Essential Mark III. In this video we'll explain what it is, how it works, and why you should make it your go-to controller keyboard for any style. So let's get into it. KeyLab Essential Mark III is an inspiring and intuitive keyboard controller designed to make your music making workflow more personal and enjoyable than ever before. It comes with a velocity-sensitive keyboard with a synth action feel, fresh controls including contextual buttons and pressure-sensitive pads, a bright new screen, creative features like scale mode, a premium creative software bundle, and much more. Whether you're a beginner producer or an experienced music maker looking for a refreshed setup, KeyLab Essential distills everything you want in a controller into a simple, fun, expressive keyboard for production and performance. Before we start, let's play a few sounds coming from the included software package to hear KeyLab Essential in action. Now let's dive in and see what it can do. The first thing to know about KeyLab Essential Mark III is that it's a full plug-and-play experience. If your DAW is up to date, KeyLab Essential will be instantly linked to all the useful settings and controls when you connect it. Between its custom mapping for major DAWs and familiar MCU HUI protocols, it can be used to control any DAW. By pressing the Program button, you can toggle between three modes: Arturia mode, letting you control analog lab and other Arturia instruments, DAW mode, which gives you total control over your DAW, and user mode for your own custom programs. The idea is to give you only the controls and settings that you need so you can focus on playing and having fun without even touching your mouse or trackpad. You can find out more details on the integration between KeyLab Essential, Analog Lab, and major DAWs in our dedicated tutorial series, which you'll find in our YouTube playlists. Now let's do a quick tour of all the front and back panel features. First up, you've got the velocity-sensitive keyboard that feels great and is perfect for playing keys. Bass lines. And chord progressions. Next, we have 8 backlit RGB colorful pads with banks A and B, perfect for triggering drums, clips, or samples. On top of that, KeyLab Essential features 9 high-quality encoders, ideal for controlling your favorite virtual instruments or external devices. Plus 9 faders for controlling volume and effects, envelope shaping, and anything else in your DAW. KeyLab Essential also features a bright display that shows real-time info about your faders, knobs, and pads. As well as info on your analog lab and DAW integration with the contextual buttons. Next, you'll find the transport section with DAW controls with details depending on your particular DAW of choice. We'll explain this section more in our dedicated DAW integration videos. There are also buttons for undo, redo, and quantize, pitch bend and modulation wheels, octave transpose switches, and MIDI channel and bank selection buttons. Lastly, creative features like chord mode, arpeggiator, and scale mode can be accessed with the Scales menu, Programs, and Parts switching buttons. The back panel has a USB-C connection for connecting KeyLab Essential to your computer, iPad, or power source, a control input for connecting a sustain, foot switch, or expression pedal, and MIDI output for controlling external devices like desktop synths. Let's now go over the major functions and features in a bit more detail. Whichever KeyLab Essential model you're playing, you can easily extend its octave range with the octave minus and plus switches. You can also transpose the notes of your melodies by semitones if you'd prefer to use different keys. To do so, simply press transpose plus or minus buttons. Both of these actions will be displayed on the screen to visualize your decisions. It's also worth noting that you can easily change the keyboard MIDI channel by pressing the MIDI button and a corresponding key, labeled just above the keyboard. Another way of using KeyLab Essential Mark III creatively is to play with its pads. These 8 velocity and pressure sensitive pads work in 2 modes. In DAW mode, banks A and B trigger notes, samples, or drums, unless you're using Ableton Live or Bitwig, when bank B triggers clips in session view. The default MIDI channel is 10. In the user or Arturia modes, both banks simply trigger MIDI notes. Triggering samples with these pads perfectly complements KeyLab Essential Mark III's keyboard workflow. The pad's adjustable velocity levels are always visible on the display and can change even if you press and hold the pad. This means you can easily play your melodies first and add drums or samples afterwards, or vice versa. KeyLab Essential Mark III comes with a selection of playful features, and the arpeggiator is one of them. An arpeggiator turns any note or chord into a repeated sequence that loops. To activate this function in KeyLab Essential Mark III, all you have to do is press the ARP button. This will engage the arpeggiator, as shown on the display. After enabling, simply press whatever notes you want, and KeyLab Essential Mark III will arpeggiate them. This arpeggiator by default is set to trigger notes at a certain speed, direction, and time division, and has many other options that define its behavior. You can edit all of these options using the ARP menu and the contextual buttons, which correspond to the ARP's features. Press and hold the ARP button to open the menu. Use 4 buttons to navigate 2 settings pages, as well as the main encoder to navigate through the parameters themselves. To edit, press the pen icon button. The display with its menu makes it super easy to understand and act quickly whenever you want to adjust your sound. The hold button lets you hold the notes or arpeggio that you're currently playing, even if you let go of the keys. If you play another note, chord, or arpeggio, it will replace the last one. KeyLab Essential Mark III also comes with an amazing scale feature. This allows you to set up scales on the keyboard so that every note is in key. To activate it, long press the scale button. Inside you will see the root and type tabs. The root tab allows you to pick the root note for your scale, which can be done with the use of the main encoder. Then you can enter the type tab and select one of the available scales. This will allow you to play in the selected scale despite the keys that you will trigger. The handy keyboard visualizer will show you your root note and highlight your scale by making all available notes visibly highlighted. Another major feature of KeyLab Essential Mark III is its chord mode. This function allows you to play chords and multiple notes with just one finger, and with scale mode activated, you can easily create harmonious chord sequences. To enter chord mode, press the chord button. After this, the display will show that chord mode is on. Now, when you again press and hold the same button, the screen will say Create User Chord. To create your chord, simply play up to 16 notes, and KeyLab Essential Mark III will save them as a chord shape. Once you're done, the screen will display the notes that create your chord, and whenever you press a key, it'll play your newly created chord. You can now also choose various chord types from the preset list, as well as your user chords. Here's how it's done. To switch chord mode off, just press the chord button again. KeyLab Essential Mark III will remember your last chord even after you've turned it off. It's worth mentioning that you can configure your KeyLab Essential Mark III with the MIDI Control Center, an app that you can download when you first register your controller. Before you get going, you'll need to update your KeyLab Essential Mark III's firmware, which is also done via MIDI Control Center. Once you're registered, make sure you download the latest version and install it for the best music making workflow. MIDI Control Center will automatically recognize your KeyLab Essential Mark III when you connect it. Once connected, you can adjust the settings for the knobs, faders, MIDI, and even the colors of the pads. You'll find all of the advanced settings right here. And that's it. Hopefully this tutorial showed you how interesting the KeyLab Essential Mark III is and how exciting it can be for your music production workflow. Don't forget to check out the rest of our KeyLab Essential videos for tips and tricks on how to get the most out of it. Thank you guys for watching, and see you soon.